Hey everybody, and welcome to the first episode of One on One. It's a show where maybe we take a YouTube personality or maybe just someone from the internet and we hear what they have to say. Whether it's a funny story or a personal experience, we just want to know more about this person in question or anything interesting that they have to say. So go ahead and load up a game or whatever, throw this tab in on the background and just have fun listening. So in this first episode we have Liam Robertson.
Hey!
So Liam, explain what you do to people who don't know who you are.
Okay, so I write about video games, and I've worked with sites like Nintendo Life in the past, but I'd say I'm mainly known for uncovering games that were cancelled or never released for whatever reason. I work with Unseen64.net, which is a site that archives those games, and I make a series of videos for Unseen64 on the Did You Know Gaming YouTube channel, where I talk about projects that fell apart for whatever reason. I talk to game developers about their projects, you know, what their creative ideas were, what the creative direction behind those projects were, and I try to find out what ultimately befell them, and then I try to piece together these stories and present them in a narrative that people can understand in the videos. And yeah, that's kind of what I do. I make videos about games that weren't. That's me.
How did you get started working for these companies like Did You Know Gaming and Unseen64?
Well, Unseen64 is a site that I'd always liked. I came across it many years ago because people don't realize this, but it's been around since I'd say about 1999 was when.
Damn.
It goes back a long time. Originally, it was just about Nintendo 64 games, hence the name. But I discovered it in around like 2007 or something like that, and I immediately wanted to start writing for them. But at the time, you know, I was in school, I was just a kid, and I didn't really know what I was doing. But you know, I continued to contribute little things here and there over the years, just what I could, and I started to make videos for them, similar to what I do now, but on a smaller scale, and they were just crappy, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I just wanted to play about video editing, and I wanted to make videos about video games as far back as like 2009 was when I started doing that. But eventually I started to get better at it, and I made some friends in the game industry, and I decided, okay, I'm going to give this a proper go of it. I'm going to start making a series of videos for Unseen64, more kind of professionally done, where I talk to the game developers firsthand, and it's not just information that you can find on the web already. Like, the whole idea of it was, in every video I will uncover at least something about this project, and I'll tell people. So the point is to make every video worth watching, because you can always learn something new. That was kind of my idea there. And then yeah, I became one of the main people in charge at Unseen64. In around 2013 or something, the website was kind of, going downhill, in the sense that nobody was editing it anymore, and I thought that was a shame, so I wanted to give it a bit of a resurgence. So I started to do these videos, and that kind of, it brought everyone back together, and it helped. The site is still going now. The guy who was in charge of it has a Patreon up and running, which I helped him with, and yeah, and then I guess how I started to work with Unseen, Did You Know Gaming? That's a different question. So this is kind of weird, but Did You Know Gaming does these videos where they talk about game trivia and stuff like that, and then one day I saw they did a video about Sonic Adventure 2. And basically, because I'm a nerd, I'd been talking to Takashi Iizuka, who was, I think he was the producer on that game, or he was, no, I don't think he was at the time, but he was one of the main people involved at Sonic Team. He's the producer of the Sonic games now, but at the time I think he just had some kind of like head creative role in Sonic Adventure 2 or something. But anyway, I was asking him, like, I don't know how I got talking to him, but I just was talking to him around that time. And I remember there was this whole myth about Sonic Adventure 2, that there was this like cut section of Sonic Adventure 2 where Sonic would have gotten in a submarine or something.
Yeah.
And I asked Takashi Iizuka, and he was just like, no, that's just a load of nonsense. It's just some like old rumor that has persisted for whatever reason. Because weirdly, it was on like Wikipedia and it was on like a bunch of websites. And anyway, I saw Did Gaming did a video about this, and they mentioned the submarine thing, and I was like, you know, I wouldn't normally do this, but I just felt like being a bit of a dork, and I wrote to them like, well, actually, Takashi Iizuka told me that's not true. And I thought they were just going to be like, oh, fuck off. But what actually happened was Shane Gale, who owns Did Gaming, he just kind of reached out and he said, hey, I've seen some of your videos. I've seen the Unseen64 videos you're doing on your channel. Do you want to do them for us? And
that's cool.
He basically gave me a much bigger platform on which I could do the videos, and like he didn't want any of the revenue from them at all. He just wanted like more people creating content for his channel, and I was just like, you know, this would be a great opportunity to get some exposure.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, do it on a bigger platform. So yeah, I was just well down to do it. And Did Gaming's great. Shane is a really good guy, and if anyone listening to this ever gets a chance to work with them, like, absolutely go for it, because they're great guys and they let you do pretty much whatever you want. Or in my case, they did anyway.
That sounds great. So we're kind of skipping over one part here. So how do you get talking with these people? Like, where are you getting these rumors from? Do you find them, or do they find you from your exposure of Did Gaming?
When you're talking about like reporting on rumors and that kind of thing, it's generally just people I know will tell me stuff. And it's from people, like contacts that I've cultivated from doing the Unseen64 videos, that I've known for a number of years. Generally, it's very rare for someone to just come out of the blue and give you a tip and it turns out to be correct. Like, I do get a lot of people who do that, but they're mostly people who are just trying to troll me. And thankfully, I've never fallen for any one of those. But yeah, there's a lot of people who try to send me fake stuff. But yeah, the rumors that I actually do report on, like I reported on one about Lego recently, the next Lego games.
Yeah, that was a really good
one
article.
Of them's yeah, thanks. One of them is going to be Lego Incredibles. Yeah, those kind of rumors, they come from people I've known for a long time who work at those companies. Sometimes I will know someone who will then later go on to work at a bigger company like Ubisoft, and then, you know, that's you're in. But generally, you know, it's not worth going to someone who you don't really know and being like, hey, tell me what the next Retro Studios game is, because they're just going to be like, no, man, no, why would I do that? Like, I don't even know who you are. so there's no point in pursuing anything like that. Generally, you just have to wait and see what comes to you, what you hear through the grapevine, and see what you can verify through talking to X many people.
So people are always wondering this, at least I can see it in the comments and everything. But since you are reporting on so many different rumors and such of upcoming video games, what do you think is the most significant rumor that you reported on?
Are you talking about like cancelled games, or do you mean like games as in, you know, unannounced stuff?
We could talk about unannounced stuff or canceled, just whichever one you think it came out and people got a big reaction from it.
I'd say probably the biggest story that I've ever covered is to do with Project Hammer, which was this big Nintendo project that they were working on so many years ago. And this is probably the one that I felt the most heat from, because it was so controversial. Project Hammer was this early Wii game, and it was one of the first Wii games they ever showed off. And I believe it was only shown at one E3, and then it was shown in like one little gameplay clip in like a gameplay reel for the Wii a couple months later, and then it disappeared for many years. And Nintendo to this day won't comment on it. Like, it's weird. They took like a vow of silence on Project Hammer, and nobody really knew what had happened to it. So I spent about a month or so working on my piece about it, trying to uncover what had happened to that game. And I spoke to a ton of people, and it was just an absolute shit show. Like, people, go and watch my video about it if you want the full story on that, but there were allegations of nationalism and racism.
Jeez.
And just like, you know, not ideal working conditions. And at one point in the development, I'd say over the course of about a year, like over half that studio just walked out, just left, because that was how bad things were. And due to just a creative crisis, I'd say, you know, people not agreeing on the creative direction of that game, and it meandering, so much money was wasted. And yeah, it was crazy. And when I put out my video about it, I got a ton of shit about that. Like, I got people, you know, telling me I was a liar and all this stuff, but there's plenty of evidence that everything in that video happened, and you can ask anyone who worked at NST, the company that made that, if you go and talk to them like I did. Yeah, it was a very sad story to cover, but I'd say that's probably the biggest story that I've covered.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, with Nintendo, you don't really hear stories like that, you know, big negative stories like Inside Turmoil that you hear about on the scale of Project Hammer. It really was a disaster in which they lost dozens of people and millions of dollars, and for some reason no other sites had covered it for whatever reason. So yeah, I was really happy to have gotten the scoop on that, but at the same time, it was very sad. It was really sad to cover.
Are you ever worried that, because Nintendo's been known to not really do well with YouTube videos in general, are you ever worried that Nintendo's going to try to do something, especially in the moment when you were uploading that they might try to do something since you're the first one breaking this story?
I think I used to. Like when we did the Project Hammer video, and that had footage in there that had never been made public before. And some of my other stuff, like I've covered like a cancelled Kid Icarus game, stuff like that, which has internal kind of, you know, visual content, like animations or footage of the games. I look at that and I see, oh, Nintendo could take that down. But over time, I've become kind of relaxed about it. Like, I have a network that has my back, and I think they just realized that it wouldn't be worth coming after me, because I would just, you know, I would probably make it difficult for them.
Yeah.
I have a support system that would prevent them from trying to censor me like that. And yeah, I think that they're smart enough to realize that it would just get them a lot of bad press.
So away from some of the sad Project Hammer stuff, what's some of your favorite stories of canceled video games? Whether it's got just a ridiculous backstory or just the game was bad?
You know, I always find it interesting talking to like the LucasArts guys about what happened there. I did a video about Star Wars games, which your audience actually might be pretty interested in seeing. I did a video, can't remember what it was called, but it was something to do, like it was called something like Star Wars games you've never heard of before, or something like that. And it was a Unseen64 video, and I talked to a bunch of people who worked at LucasArts. And yeah, I always found it interesting that there was this internal kind of all these arguments going on at LucasArts about whose game would get made. Like, everyone had an idea for the next Star Wars game. Like, there was a group of guys that wanted to do a Chewbacca bounty hunter game where it was about Chewbacca's origin story. And also Factor 5, who did the Star Wars Rogue Squadron games, were working on a proposal called Dark Squadron, where you would have played as like Darth Vader in his TIE Advance and all this stuff, and it was you would command the Empire's fleet. It had a bunch of cool ideas, and you can learn more about it in that video. But I always found it really interesting that there was kind of this all these internal arguments going on between who, you know, everyone wanted their game to be made, and there were maybe some hints of corruption. Like, one of the people who was in charge of the Chewbacca game was on the committee that decided which games would get made. And so, you know, they could just basically be like, okay, cancel all the other projects and make their own game. And yeah, there was a lot of, I would describe it as light corruption at LucasArts at the time. And yeah, I really like doing that video. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and it's always interesting to hear that there's all these games, all these Star Wars pitches that have happened that you just never hear about. And those were a few of them. And, you know, the outcome of that video, or one of the outcomes, was that the Chewbacca game was supposed to be made, and then George Lucas just came in and was just like, nope, we're not doing this. So after all,
he's been known to do that.
Yeah. After all this, after all the infighting between all the different teams trying to decide which games will get made, George Lucas just came in and went, no, fuck this, and he tore everything. He tore everything up, and the team that wanted to do the Chewbacca game actually went on to do the Force Unleashed instead, because George Lucas was just like, nope, you're not doing this. You're gonna do this weird thing about Darth Vader's apprentice. So yeah.
So you mentioned Factor 5 before, which eventually closed down at one point. And obviously, probably at this point, you can see some signs on whether or not these companies are going to close down kind of early on. Are you seeing that with any companies today?
There are some companies that I look at and I'm a bit concerned about. But if you watch my videos in which I address companies that have closed, you'll see a pattern that it's very difficult to predict these things. And it's generally not like something you can look at and say this company is going or whatever, because usually when a game is cancelled or a company is closed, it is the result of so many different factions, like stuff like, how's the economy doing? How's the publisher that's funding their games doing? You know, how are their relationships going, and how are things going internally with the developers? Like, there are so many different things that can go wrong, and yeah, I there are certain companies that I am concerned about right now, like Volition. Do you know Volition? They did the Saints Row games, and last year I think it was they did Agents of Mayhem, which was their kind of like original IP, which was kind of a spiritual successor to Saints Row.
Okay.
And they came out and they did that, and it was supposed to be, oh, this is their new thing, and it didn't do well at all. It bombed, and so we don't really know what Volition's doing now. And yeah, we have some friends there at Unseen64. They've released stuff to us before, so I hope they're doing well. But that is an example of one company I'm a bit concerned about right now. But generally, the early signs are one of their games will fail or not sell as well as you hope, and or maybe like they start working with another publisher. But generally, I'd say there's no point in trying to predict that kind of thing, because it can just be something totally unexpected happened, like the company that was doing that first-person Avengers game. Like, do you remember that? Like about like 5 or 6 years ago, I can't remember when it was.
Yeah, the whole first-person Avengers game that you talked about on your channel, and I think it got like a fair amount of press too.
Yeah. So with that game, they thought they were going to get that out of the door, but basically what happened was that was being made in Australia, and around the time, it was probably I'd say about 2/3 of the way done. Like it had like over 100 people working on it, and
wow.
It was a fair way into production, and it was due to come out the following year. And then I think in about 2010, what happened was, I'm not sure if it was 2010, but it was around then. What happened was the value of the Australian dollar rose unexpectedly, and that basically meant that it cost THQ like way more to pay their Australian employees than it would anywhere else. And while THQ was losing a bunch of money on the U-Draw, which was this failed peripheral they had, they looked at Australia and they said, oh, we're spending so much money there because of the way the currency, the value has changed. Oh, let's fire all those guys. And, it was just something as unexpected as that. The currency changing, like anything can go wrong.
Yeah, it's something you never expected.
Yeah. So, yeah, there are basically a million different things that can go wrong in game development, and the more you learn about these type of things, you realize that it is a miracle that anyone gets anything done. And it's taught me to have a lot of respect for games that have even come out of the door and they might be a bit half-baked, because at least they got through game development and they were able to produce something.
So you mentioned, I have a feeling you're going to be able to say nothing about this, but you mentioned the Avengers video game. So lately, you made a tweet that just said the Avengers video game currently in the works is going to be awesome. Is there any way you can expand upon that?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
I tried, all right?
I I've been asked a lot about that, but basically I was talking to someone who's involved with that, and yeah, the things they were telling me, it sounded pretty cool. But I don't. There's nothing I can share because these things are traceable, and it's very early on, and it's my friend, and I don't want to piss them off.
Yeah, don't worry, I get you. So a little bit away from Unseen64 and Did You Know Gaming, you do a lot of video game journalism, and that's always very sought after. It's a lot of people want to just do what they love, which is talk about video games. And so what advice would you give to somebody who wants to do that?
Well, to be honest, like, I would say don't do it. Like, if I could go back and talk to a younger me, I would say don't pursue this, because there really isn't very much money in it, and there's such a limited amount of positions. Like, I've been very lucky to get anywhere. But really, you can make, if you want to make money and you want to actually live like a good life where you have lots of holidays and times to yourself and time with your family and your friends and your partner or whatever, then don't do game journalism, because it's hell. But if you are stubborn and you really want to pursue it, then I just say, a good tip I think is to try and find a niche. Some people write really well about social issues. If you can find a niche like that, like I guess my niche is talking about historical stuff like console games and finding out what happened there, and talking to game developers and getting to understand their kind of the creative direction behind these games. I'd say that's my niche. If you can find a niche like that and you can carve that out well, then that is a good way to get noticed and to bring something new to the table. Because a lot of people, when they try to get into game journalism, they just want to do what everyone's doing already. Like, they look at IGN and other sites and they say, okay, I want to do game reviews, or I want to do playthroughs or whatever, and they just don't just copy what everyone else is doing. Try to find something unique. Like, look at what's there and try to put something there that isn't. That's what I'd say. Like, try to find a unique angle on game journalism. And that's
like the same thing with YouTube today, because everything is so oversaturated. You just can't be another drop in the bucket. You have to come out with something different or something quality.
Yeah. Like, even when I started to do these videos about like game history, there's a ton of people who do that, and some people who do it better than me. But yeah, how I tried to do that differently was that it's all my research. It's all things that I found from talking to people personally.
So when you joined video game journalism, there's got to be something in there that you just didn't expect when you walked in. Whether it was the whole, not being paid well, or basically no vacation time or something. Was there anything else that you just found surprising when you went into it that somebody wouldn't expect?
Yeah, I was surprised, basically, like, I wasn't surprised how little money there was in game journalism. I'm just surprised by how cheap a lot of people can be, like how people really don't want to pay you when you start off doing it. Like, when I remember when I started doing little things for different websites, without naming names, they just didn't want to pay me. Even if I was like producing like really high performing articles. I worked for a few sites that are defunct now. I'm not sure if I should name them. I won't, but yeah, I was surprised by how people basically try to get everything for free. And another tip I'd give people is don't let people do that. Like, if you have something that you think is of value and they are going to make money off it, then just say to them, no, you're going to have to pay me. Like, stick up for yourself and know the value of your content.
Yeah.
And also, I was surprised that how, at least when you work for very small sites, they are afraid of like pissing off publishers. Like, I was stopped from publishing a few articles. People told me, no, don't write this because you'll upset Capcom. Like, I think a long time ago, right when I was first starting off doing little reviews and stuff for different websites, I wrote a Mega Man review or something, like Mega Man 11. And I sent it to the editor, and I was just doing it like voluntarily at the time. But I got an email back saying, no, you're going to have to change the score and make it higher.
Okay.
because they didn't want to stop getting review codes from Capcom.
Oh my god.
And they were afraid that they weren't going to get any more, so they said, okay, we're gonna have to bump the score up to a 9 or something. And at that point, I didn't really care. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, how many people are gonna read my review? It doesn't really matter. But yeah, that I guess that is one thing that surprised me. But when people say that type of thing, just to note, people say that type of thing goes on at IGN and GameSpot. It doesn't. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just that kind of like corruption is only with the very, very small sites that are kind of dodgy.
Yeah, so they don't want to get out of the bubble, basically.
Yeah, they want to be within the circle of trust, and they want the big companies like Capcom and Nintendo to like them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get that. So what, E3's coming up, all right?
Yeah.
Liam, can you break any news right now? Can you tell me any rumors? This is a cut short exclusive. What's going on, Liam?
There's no point in asking me that because it's only February. Like, did you see the other day somebody posted this list and they were saying, oh, these are all the Nintendo games that are going to be at E3.
I saw this on Reddit. It was a huge list of Nintendo games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like such obvious bullshit. like Nintendo does not know what games are going to be at E3 at this point. I'm sure they have a few that they're like, okay, we're going to drop this at E3. But there's no way they have some kind of list that's going out there externally. They will be planning their E3 stuff like down to the minute. Like things will be pulled and replaced, and their lineup will be fluctuating right up until June. Like they don't know. They might have a tentative list somewhere, but like they're not going to give that out to someone who's setting up stands. Like, none of this makes any sense. Like, yeah. So ask me again like a few weeks before E3, because that's when you really start to find stuff out. Mm-hmm. When like they get the floor plan and you know who's there. And people are on the verge of announcing things. That's when stuff like starts to leak out to me. I mean, one thing to look out for, which I could imagine we'll see at E3 this year, is I think it's IDOS, who do the Deus Ex games. They're working on a Guardians of the Galaxy action game.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's been announced or like how much is out there about that, but like Square has already announced they're doing the Avengers game, which we talked about before. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll see that there. Like I would expect that they would announce that this year. Like, they've got what do you call it, Infinity War coming out this year, yeah. And why not ride off the hype and announce that your Guardians of the Galaxy thing there?
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that is plausible. And yeah, but in terms of rumors for E3, it's too early. Like,
so that's a cut short exclusive. We don't know.
Yeah.
Report that, boys. So, on your latest podcast, actually, if you donate $1 on your Patreon, you can listen to it. You talked about Crackdown 3. So what's going on with that?
Yeah, so that's still in development, There's not a lot I can say about that, to be honest, because people are very tight-lipped about what's going on with that. Mm-hmm. But I basically just checked in with a couple of people and just asked, like, yo, what's going on with Crackdown 3? Because it's kind of a mystery. Like, they've not released an update on that game in months, and people are wondering. And yeah, I just want to know, is it still in development? Apparently it is. I have heard there were some issues with, the cloud-based destruction stuff, mm-hmm. and they've had to rework a lot of that stuff. Like, we already saw last year at E3 that it wasn't a part of the main campaign anymore, and that I believe they've actually split it off into the competitive mode. So, yeah, I could see... I think the final game will have the cloud-based destruction, but nowhere near on the scale that people were initially expecting when they first showed it off. So I would expect some disappointment, but yeah, I guess with Crackdown 3 it is kind of a wait-and-see thing. But I think it is going to come out. Like, it's been in the works for too long now. And I think Microsoft knows that they can't keep cancelling these projects like they mm-hmm. did with Scalebound,
yeah,
and Fable and Phantom Dust. Yeah, like I'm sure there are more that I've forgotten. Not off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a bunch of them of big exclusives that should have come out but didn't.
Yeah, and we don't want Crackdown 3 to be that again.
Yeah. So I do think it is going to come, but it was just, I kept hearing that it was just way behind schedule. And you know, if you remember, it was meant to be like one of like the launch games of the Xbox One X.
Yeah.
And I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it came out around that time of the this year, like, you know, like late on this year. They've got it listed for, I think, spring this year, and I just don't buy that at all.
Do you think they'll just secretly try to move it up?
Yeah, I think it will get moved up probably into the second half of this year at this rate. But, you know, I could be wrong. That's just the impression that I get.
Okay, yeah. So lately, Liam, our worlds have met, mostly in Cut Short we talk about films, and then in Your World you talk about games. Lately, Illumination has brought us together. The Minions people are working on a Mario movie. How are you feeling about that, Liam?
So I'm known for like not liking the Minions and like saying shit about the Minions on Twitter, but you know, I am very open to being, you know, I've got a very open mind, and I don't mind being convinced about these type of things, and I think they will actually do a fine job.
I agree,
because I watched the Minions film. Like for some reason I took it upon myself to do that, not because they're doing a Mario game. I was just at work one day and I didn't have anything to do, and it was on Netflix, so I put it on.
Out of everything, that was what you chose?
Well, I didn't really have anything to watch. Like, I caught up on all my shows, and like there wasn't. Yeah, I wanted to watch the Minions movie. Like, I will watch everything. Like, if I think it's interesting, I watched the Minions film, and I thought it was really funny. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I really did laugh quite a few times. I thought it was well done slapstick humor. It wasn't a great film. Like, the plot is very simplistic, and I didn't really like the ending that much, but it was funny.
I didn't think I'd hear your film analysis on Minions when asking this question, but no, keep going.
Yeah, well, anyway, yeah, I think the core slapstick elements were very funny and very, very entertaining. I'm not being ironic here. I really mean that. So I think they could bring something really interesting to Mario, you know, if they make it in that same style of humor, like a silent film, where the characters don't talk, it's just all, you know, little facial movements and, you know, slapstick humor, and it's about what the characters are doing rather than what they're saying. I think it could be really funny, like seeing Mario and Bowser and Luigi and Princess Peach interact like that. They could do something really neat, and if you look at like the cutscenes in Mario Odyssey, I think that's a good sign. That's a good sign of things to come.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Well, that game has some really funny little cutscenes in there, and if the film takes that kind of a direction, then I think it could be really, really good. Like, Mario has had some bad cutscenes in the past. Like, if you look at Mario Sunshine.
Oh God, they're all talking. Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah, and Bowser's like, what's his name? Bowser Jr. is talking with his dad, and he's like, "Mama Peach," and it's so weird. That shit is so strange. But yeah, I assume they won't go in that direction, and it will be more like I assume that's why they got Illumination, because it's going to be like a silent film. So I think that could be really good.
Yeah, I assume they chose Illumination. It's almost the perfect pick, because the Minions and Despicable Me are just the most safe movies ever. And I assume after their horrific try back in the 90s, I assume they just want something so safe at this point.
Yeah. I agree. You know, Miyamoto never really disliked the Mario movie.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, explain this?
I don't know 100% if this is true, but I read it in a book. There's a really good book by Blake something. I can't remember his surname, sorry, but look it up. There's a book called Console Wars, and it is about Nintendo's history with like the console wars and Sega during the 90s. And there is a section in which they talk about the head of NOA at the time taking Miyamoto to see a screening of the Mario Brothers movie. And apparently Miyamoto like just sat there and smiled throughout the whole thing, and he laughed a few times, and I think he liked it. But you know, they asked him like, what did he think? They expected him to be like, oh, what is this shit? But apparently he just was like, you know, he just apparently was very somber about it. He was very calm about it, and he said something that I think is very sensible. He said, you know, some people might not like this, but I think they'll be able to differentiate it from my games, and they'll be able to see that it's not the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This is somebody else's take on my ideas. So, you know, it's not gonna reflect badly on Mario, because people will see that's something else. It's made by different people, and it's so different. So it's such a different vision that why would he get mad at it? You know?
Yeah, and it's pretty hard to argue that movie hurt the Mario games in any way.
Yeah. I mean, nobody, like, what percentage of people who play the Mario games today have seen the Mario Brothers movie or even know about it? Like,
yeah,
it's pretty obscure now. I mean, I know we know about it because we're nerds, but like, when you look at like how many millions of people play the Mario games, realistically, like, I'd say maybe about 1% of them have seen the Mario movie.
Yeah,
that's an ambitious 1% at best, you know.
So I want to get into some Twitter questions here. We both tweeted about whether or not people have any questions about this interview. At Jared Kozar asks if you've heard anything about Animal Crossing or Smash Brothers coming on the Switch.
Yeah, it's difficult because I'm gonna say something and then it's gonna be a Reddit thread.
Yeah, exactly. But, that's what I was thinking about.
But yeah, I think there will be both. I'm not gonna say like what I've heard or what I haven't heard, but I think there'll be both. Like sooner rather than later, like especially Animal Crossing. But with Smash Brothers, it's a weird one, right? Because that has been rumored for a long time.
Yeah.
There have been people talking about, even I heard stuff, I remember, like, back when we were calling it the NX, like, around that period of time, when they announced the Switch, there were big rumors about how Bandai Namco was involved with it again, and how the Tekken 7 team was going to be involved when they finished Tekken 7. And, you know, there were all these initial rumors and then just quiet. So I assume they're just getting on with it, they're doing it, and that's why we haven't heard anything, because games take a long time to be made, you know?
Yeah.
And I assume what they're doing, if I had to guess, is that I remember the original rumors were that they were working on like an ultimate version of the Super Smash Bros. For Wii, for Wii U rather, and it was going to be like a collection with all the DLC, all the characters, and then it was going to be expanded upon, like it would use that game as a basis with its same mechanics, but it would add just a ton of new stuff. So I mean that rumor's out there, that seems plausible to me, but it's been such a long time now, like it could go either way. Like I haven't heard anything recently about Smash Brothers. You know, it's definitely gonna happen. They do a Smash Brothers on every console.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, just be patient and wait it out, and it'll happen.
So this question right here is actually for both of us. It's from Dissatisfied. He says, for both of you, what's your favorite canceled project? And which one are you the most saddest or happiest about being canceled? I could start this off if you want.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Right off the bat, I'm still sad about Spider-Man 4, honestly. When you grow up with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universe, and then it just ends so abruptly, and also just kind of badly with Spider-Man 3, I still want some closure from that. But it's also, it's understandable because Sam Raimi has come out and he said, hey, you know what, it probably would have been fine, but also I was kind of just sick of doing it, and I was kind of just done, because it was almost like 10 years of him doing it at that point. Yeah,
I understand that. Yeah, I would have much rather have had another Sam Raimi one, rather than the weird reboot with Andrew Garfield. Like, I didn't like those films at all. And I liked the goofiness and the humor that Sam Raimi brought to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it would have been interesting how he would have wrapped up his saga. Like, Spider-Man 3 ended in a weird place.
Yeah.
with Harry dying, and yeah, I really wanted to see where they go next. And it would have been weird to see John Malkovich, wasn't it? Was it John Malkovich was going to play the Vulture?
He was one of the rumored ones, yeah.
Okay, well, for me, it would have to be probably Factor 5 worked on this game called We Fly, and it was this incredibly ambitious open world game that was originally pitched as like a open world Pilot Wings game, and it was basically they'd mapped out like a miniature version of the entire Earth.
Oh my god!
And you could fly around. It was a Wii game, a huge open world where you could go around the entire globe, and it just had so much ambition to it. It had this crazy advanced lighting system, and the time of day was real time, like it was related to real world locations, and it pulled weather from the Wii's weather channel. So, you know, if it was raining in real life in London, the game could reflect that.
Wow.
And, you know, or if you go to California and it's nice and sunny. But yeah, I really love Factor 5, obviously, because I always talk about them. But that project, I think, was so interesting and so ambitious. And I guess another one, if you'll humour me, was the Flash open world game that Bottle Rocket Entertainment was doing, which is another one that I've covered. Go check that video out if you haven't already.
Yeah, these will all be linked in the description if anybody wants to, after this, check out what Liam's doing. Yeah,
okay, cool. And that game I thought was really interesting. Had a lot of really interesting ideas. They had a lot of reverence for the source material. Clearly, it had all of the Flash's rogues gallery in there, and they had this huge open world that would change based upon your actions. And it really, like, it gave me some, like, Peter Molyneux vibes writing about it, like how they had, like, a morality system where if you saved the day so many times, like, the world would actively get better. Like, the people in the city would erect statues of the Flash, and they'd open the Flash Museum. Or if you screwed up and you let people die or whatever, the city would start to rot and people would turn on the Flash. Like, that is a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Like, there's no superhero game quite like that, I think.
But do you think that's what kind of led to the downfall of both of these? Is that they're almost too ambitious? They almost went for too much?
Not really, because both those projects befell by external factors that had nothing to do with the developers. Like, it was, I think both of them actually were the result of a publisher just crashing, going out of business. And then, you know, the money stopped coming in, and, you know, they couldn't work on it anymore because, yeah, they didn't have anything to pay their employees. So too often that's how a lot of these projects get cancelled. They just lose funding because a company will go out of business or something like that.
So only 2 more questions left for you, Liam. So recently you made a tweet not that long ago that you said you wanted to just maybe one of these days leave YouTube or Twitter and go on to something else. What do you think you would go on to after that?
Oh God, I've no idea. I just like I'm getting to a point in my life, like I'm in my 20s now, and I might want to find something different to do. I have taken a break from doing videos for a few months, although I am slowly starting to work on my next big thing, which will be probably another Unseen64 video. Depends really what happens with it. I'm not really sure. But I have been working on something pretty big. But yeah, I'm really not sure what I do, but I think at some point I might find myself wanting to do something different, something not YouTube related, because although I have enjoyed making videos for YouTube, it's just stressful as hell. Like, if you want to make a living off it, with all the adpocalypses going on, your revenue, your paycheck is constantly a threat.
Yeah,
and it is constantly fluctuating. Like, one month you'll make thousands, and then another you'll make hundreds, and it just sucks. Like, there's no consistent way to do it anymore. That when I first started doing this, there was, and I was making more money back then. Obviously, it's not about the money. I just want to make enough to survive. But it is probably going to get to a point at which I probably cannot afford to just do videos and articles, and I might have to do, go and get a full-time job I mean, I do have a day job, it must be said. I'm not just some fucking loser who just sits in his pants and writes about video games.
Talking about the Minions movie all day. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I do have a day job, but, you know, I do it part-time so I can do this. Yeah, but at some point I think I am just going to have to call it a day and pack it in and find something new to do. And I don't know what that'll be. I've had a few offers from a few different websites to potentially go and, you know, like do like a staff job, and that would be nice. So we'll see what happens. But right now, I don't know what I'm going to do. Let's just wait and see, because you never know.
Yeah, all right. Sounds good. So last question, softball here. Liam, what games have you been playing recently?
Oh, that is the softball, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I've mostly been playing Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Oh, same here.
Cool, yeah. I really like it. Do you?
Yeah, I really like it too. I thought for sure I'd go into it basically just for the story mode, but the story mode's super grindy, kind of. It's really easy too.
It is. It does. Has to be said. It does get a lot harder. Like I'm in the second saga now, and it is starting to get quite a bit harder. But I will agree with you. I am enjoying the story to some extent, but I can't play it for a long time because you're right. It is very grindy. You are fighting a lot of the same enemies. But with the game, I will say, like, I am enjoying the interactions between all the different characters. I think they're very fun. There's a lot of great fan service. And the fighting mechanics themselves, I think, are really solid and really approachable. Like, I'm not a big fighting game person, but I am enjoying, you know, learning the ropes, and I'm not finding it too hard to get into. I feel like I'm really getting a hang of it as someone who doesn't play fighting games that often. Like, the most I'll play is like a little bit of Street Fighter or a little bit of Smash Brothers, and yeah, I don't normally go for a game like this, but it's Dragon Ball. Yeah, I'm really liking it.
Yeah, when I came into this and my friend of mine told me, he was like, yeah, it's pretty easy. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So I can kind of low-key button mash, but at the same time kind of know what I'm doing. And first thing I did, immediately I was like, I got this. I went into a casual match and then just got my shit kicked in. And so I immediately just went to story mode. It's stuck in there for a while.
Yeah. I think the story mode does a good job of easing you into it as well. Like, the way it implements the tutorials into the gameplay is really clever. But yeah, I'm mostly enjoying it. I will agree with you there, though, that some of the story mode might be a bit too grindy for some people.
Yeah, but so far, I'm having a ton of fun with it. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
And so I believe that's everything we have to say here, Liam. Liam, where can people find you? I'm
on Twitter. I'm at Dr_Cupcake. That's the full word, Doctor and underscore and cupcakes. Or you can check me out on YouTube. I'm at youtube.com/LiamRProductions. Or you can just Google like Liam Robertson. You'll probably find me. Or like check out my Unseen64 videos. They're on my channel. They're on Did You Know Gaming. You can check out the complete playlist on my YouTube channel. I think that's probably the best way to watch them. I also have a Patreon if anyone listening to this wants to kick me $1 for whatever reason. I do a podcast where I talk about like game rumors and that kind of thing, and I'm a bit more kind of open about that kind of thing on there. And I have special guests on there occasionally, like some of my friends, and we just talk about video games and rumors and, you know, what we've been playing, and it's good fun. So go check that out. And yeah.
So Liam, thank you for coming on, and thank you guys for watching the first episode of One on One. Let me know in the comments what you guys liked or what you didn't like. We want the show to be as good as possible, and I'm gonna need your guys' feedback for that. So again, thank you guys for watching.